Cybersecurity has been in the spotlight in recent months again because of the staggering rise in cyber attacks on both public and private organizations. Between 2019 and 2020, ransomware cyber attacks rose 62% worldwide. They were up 158% in North America, according to a recent report. In just 2020 alone, the FBI received over 2,500 ransomware complaints, up 20% from the previous year. And these attacks are pricey. In 2020, the collective cost of ransomware attacks rose more than 200% to roughly $29.1 million. Attacks like the Colonial Pipeline hack and the JBS meat processing breach have exposed just how easy it is for a group of hackers to topple critical infrastructure and supply chains. For more on how vulnerable U.S. sectors are to digital threats is Shannon Wilkinson, cybersecurity expert and CEO of Tego Cyber. Shannon, thank you so much for coming on. So break this down for us. Why have we seen such a crazy rise in cyber attacks over the past year? What are some of the contributing factors here?
Well, to throw one more statistic, Jill, to the ransomware attacks that you were talking about, it's estimated that a ransomware attack happens every 11 seconds. And what we've seen more recently is, I think, and the general public is becoming more aware, is just the impact that these ransomware attacks can have on our daily lives when there's gas shortages or meat shortages. Before, ransomware attacks were just kind of an IT problem or a business problem that didn't have an effect, I think, on the general public. But now we're actually seeing those impacts on our daily lives, so people are paying more attention. Very happy to see the administration is now talking about cybersecurity and strategy. A couple more statistics beyond just ransomware is that the FBI estimated last year that there's $1.8 billion lost to phishing scams or business email compromise, where CEOs or emails come from CEOs or hackers pretending to be CEOs and have somebody commit some sort of wire transaction that's actually going to an attacker. As well as just in the first half of 2021, there's been about 18.8 billion records breached in data breaches, either due to ransomware attacks or just a data breach like the T-Mobile hack.
So those numbers are just, it's almost hard to process. And on that note, again, ransomware cyber hacks have been up over 158% in just this past year. So if you are an average citizen, how concerned should you be?
Definitely need to take protections and precautions as a citizen. There's been so many data breaches over the past, let's say, 5 years, that you can pretty much guarantee that if you are a consumer has provided information to a business, your information, some part of it, your name, your address, maybe your social security, maybe even some financial information is out there, possibly being sold on the dark web. And one of the things is with these data breaches is that little pieces of information can be put together by attackers. Let's say Shannon Wilkinson lives in Las Vegas, the last four of her social are 1234. That information can be put together to commit identity theft if they can piece together that information from the various data breaches. So while one little piece of information from here might not be so important, when it's put together from information with from another data breach, it does become a concern. So as ordinary citizens, we need to do the basic things, monitor our credit, maybe put a lock on your credit so that identity theft is harder, as well as just, we talk about the cybersecurity basics, have antivirus on your computers. Maybe if you are conducting business or working remotely from home, look into a firewall for your home as well. And just with IoT devices, change the passwords, make sure that they're secure. So just a lot of simple little things. But the most important thing that if I was going to give one piece of advice to consumers is be good about password management. Make sure all of your passwords are unique and secure and don't reuse them across various websites.
Great advice. And it's hard because there are so many passwords that you have to remember. But I guess it's all for a reason. When we think about private companies and individuals, that's one thing. But we're also hearing about our government, which, of course, has suffered data breaches as well. Why is our government, you would think, with endless resources, not able to prevent these type of cyber attacks? How vulnerable is our government at this point?
Well, there was just recently that report from the auditor's office where they gave, I think, about four different agencies, including the US State Department, Ds as far as the grade goes for their cybersecurity protections. And those organizations are investing millions of dollars as well. So it's interesting to look at the government protections and how poorly just the government is doing. There was, of course, some news over the weekend about a possible breach at the US State Department over the past couple of weeks. The news is still emerging about that, but CISA just recently put out a report that talks about, let's not talk about necessarily about cybersecurity best practices, but let's talk about all the bad practices that we do as organizations, as the federal government, things like reusing passwords or failing to disable accounts for employees who have left, and misconfigurations and those type of things. And let's talk about the bad things that we do so that we can be better and stop doing those bad things that make us vulnerable.
Right. Great advice and good practical advice for people. Thank you so much, Shannon Wilkinson, cybersecurity expert and CEO of Tego Cyber. Appreciate your time.